Senku as a character is really growing on me. After reading the first volume, I already liked him as a character. I liked Taiju, I liked Yuzu and all that, but seeing Senku animated and seeing his backstory and just everything we saw within this episode, he's honestly one of my personal favorite shonen characters. I dare say, he's just so wholesome. I don't know what else to say. Like, Senku is literally the embodiment of a boy that never gave up on the dream he wanted to accomplish. I know a lot of shonen do this type of element. It's kind of like when you look at Naruto. He was a boy that wanted to get what he wanted, he fought for what he wanted, he did get it. But Senku's, dream is very grounded in reality. Yes, his brain and his intelligence might be a little bit higher than normal, but the point is, when you look at what he wants to accomplish or what drives him, it's something that is very realistic. It's something that I think some of us can do. Never let someone tell you you can't do something, and Senku really just reminds me of that. It reminds me of just myself, too, when I had those early dreams as a boy and stuff, what I wanted to accomplish, and I really connect with his character. I really love his character, and I really like seeing just how he never gave up, and he just showed the intelligence of himself, but also humanity in general, and this episode is a reminder just to see how we as a species has become, how far we have gone as a species to be where we're at right now. There's been obviously bad decisions, but also good decisions, and I just like what this episode kind of encompasses, like what it has wrapped up in its, package. So getting right into it, obviously, at the beginning of the episode, it takes place right after Senku got hit in the back of the neck by Tsukasa. Personally, before this episode even aired, we really haven't seen Senku wake up, so we don't know or not, but I personally believe Senku was A-okay. I talked about it in my last episode review. There's just, there's no way pretty much the MC would die. I just doubt it. I mean, it could happen, okay? I mean, technically the series isn't named after Senku. It's named after a bar of soap. But even then, Senku is technically the lifeline of the story, because he is the, human, the one single entity in this world that can actually jumpstart humanity back to where it once was with technology. Now, it's possible that they could just restart completely over again with, Taiju and Yuzu, but I think because of the way the story is, they're not really going that direction, and so, obviously, Senku's death, it's not gonna happen. So, I already knew he was probably gonna be A-okay. I don't even need to look at spoilers or anything just to know that. But the big point here, though, is that Senku, we could see that with him technically dying, but not really dying, because he's gonna obviously come back, especially with the petrification, deep petrification, serum they have. It was obviously gonna, reconnect his bones that cracked and all that. We get to see a flashback, kind of how he was when he first woke up, which is something I think that was very important, that we kind of needed to see. I didn't know if we were going to get to see it, because when you really think about it, many stories typically kind of skip stuff like that, or you think this story would skip that, but no, we didn't get that skip. We got to see kind of the trial and error that Senku had to go through to build what he had at the start of episode 1. And that is what I think is just truly great about this episode, is because we see that Senku, despite him having a large brain and being able to kind of jumpstart humanity kind of back where it was, we see kind of the evolutionary steps to how humans got to where we're at right now. And I think many of us take for granted what we currently have right now. Look at us. Right now, we're currently being able to communicate through video form. We're able to communicate. If you go back 150 or so years ago, or even less than that, 100 years ago or less, you would not have something like this. You would never see something like this. The internet technically did not exist, technically how it is right now, 20 years ago. So, when you think about it, it's crazy to see how much humans have evolved with technology to be where we're at. And seeing the slow, gradual build-up where Senku, he tried to make fire, and he realized in that moment that he wasn't strong enough to really be able to do it, which is something that honestly is true. Making fire really isn't that easy. Many people think it's easy, but it really isn't. Because if you don't really have the stamina, the endurance, etc., and the technique, you're really not going to be able to do it that easy, especially with just, rubbing wood piece up against more wood and all that. It's not going to be that simple. You're going to really need to be strong to do something like that, and many of us nowadays are used to quick start fire and stuff, turning on an oven. It's easy and simple, and you don't really have to do anything. That wasn't really how it was in the past. You had to really go through trial and error, hoops and loops, just to be able to get a fire started. And seeing Senku kind of fail at first to start a fire makes sense, because he didn't really have the tools to be able to do it, and he can't really just skip, step A and B and jump to step, D. He had to be able to get everything properly set up before he even got there. He had to be able to make tools, he had to be able to make rope, he had to be able to make shelter, etc. He needed to be able to do all these little things, and you could see that gradual step in the second half of the episode, like when he starts to make tools, when he starts pounding rocks together. He tries to learn the technique of being able to make, arrowheads. And it's something that ancient humans crafted, and we kind of use that tool to this very day to create the tools we use when we eat, etc., do different things. For instance, knives, forks, and all that. We have done that throughout our history as a species. So when you see Senku slowly craft his tools, it's just like, whoa, this is kind of what they used to have to do. They would spend days upon days trying to make tools for they could be able to do things more efficiently, effectively. And it's not just that, also being able to make rope too. We think rope is relatively simple. When you think about this day and age, making rope seems like it would be easy, but it's not, especially when you don't really have the, man-made, different material we have nowadays. So Senku had to go out of his way and create his own rope and tie it together to be able to do what he needed to do, to be even able to catch animals. And that's another thing. Catching game is definitely not something that is easy either, and it's something also we take for granted. Imagine having to chase down a deer. If you've ever went hunting or whatever, fishing, etc., then you know it isn't necessarily easy. It's all about patience, timing, etc., and sometimes you'll just go without even catching anything that day, let's say fishing. And that's kind of what the point here was, is that Senku needed to be able to use his intelligence to outsmart the game to be able to catch them, because he was never going to be able to keep up with them. He was never going to be able to outrun them, use his stamina to catch up to them, because that's just not how it is. He needed to be able to catch them. He needed to be able to kind of limit his usage of stamina throughout the day, because if he used it too much, he'd be too tired to really do anything else, and he wouldn't be able to accomplish anything. So seeing him slowly, gradually build up to that point to where he caught a deer, and he was able to eat, and he made pottery, etc., I love those little moments, because it really shows just how far we as a species have come, and that he is definitely the best person to really kind of jumpstart humanity to where it once was once again. So Senku, I love his character. I love just seeing his progression as a person, or him just progressing humanity as a whole, and I just love it. So yeah, Senku, like I said, he's one of my favorites. I definitely think he's one of my favorite shonen characters just because of this episode of this series. It's really demonstrating that he has a really quirky personality. So anything else to get into? I guess Taiju and Yuzu carrying him out in the woods, getting away from Tsukasa. Now, obviously, Tsukasa believes that he got rid of Senku, and we know that Senku's probably going to be A-okay. That means that they're going to be able to do what they want, and able to build civilization, and one day come back to deal with Tsukasa. So it was kind of like a gamble. You had it to where Senku made a gamble to be able to achieve what he wanted, which was very important, because if he did not make that gamble, then he would have probably lost his life permanently. And he still made a gamble just to be in that type of situation where his neck was broken like it was. So he definitely had a really risky role to play, but I think it really paid off, because what Taiju and Yuzu did, they were able to get, Senku's body away, but also figure out what Senku was talking about and the key signs of how he was constantly popping his neck, which I think that's a really good tactic to kind of put there throughout the story, is that Senku was constantly popping his neck throughout last episode, and it's something we really have not seen much, and it was kind of like he was subtly telling Tsukasa to snap my neck. That's kind of what it was saying, and it makes sense, because that's kind of what magicians do. When you think about magicians or stuff, how to use magic and stuff like trickery, you have it to where they have to fool someone by making them focus on something. So example, let's say I'm holding a card in my hand, okay? And I'm telling you to look very closely at this card, but on this hand, I'm moving my hand way over here, and I'm grabbing something. You don't see me grabbing anything because you're so focused on the card in my hand. That's basically what happened within this episode. Senku employed a basic tactic that you would see from magicians, being able to make someone focus so hard on something that they miss something that's just right in front of them, and that was the popping of the neck. So yeah, I really like the just different levels of trickery within this episode, how Senku was as a character. It's just all around a great episode. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.